It is summer, it has officially started, and I've also been able to cross a few books of my summer to be read list, which I'm very excited to talk about. There are also some few other books, so let's talk about them. First of all, hi, my name is Madeline and welcome to my channel. This month I've read around 6 books. Some of them were part of my video about Dutch literature, which I will link down below, so go watch that after this video if you are interested in that. Another book that I made a reading vlog about is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and initially I was like, I'll just leave it, it's got its own video, but I love that book, so it definitely deserves its honorable mention in this video. It's definitely one of the best books that I've read this month, or like even this year, I'm willing to say. I really enjoyed it, and Jenkins Reid has a great way of writing, you know, more like celebrity-centered books. Because Evelyn Hugo was an actress, Hollywood starlet from the 50s up until the 80s when she retired from acting, and this book kind of like follows her life through her different marriages, which are 7 of them. And I think at its core this is just a story about like love and loss and how the media and society can, you know, alter and change your decisions through life and make how you make your life choices, and also kind of how far you're willing to go to be happy. And as that, I am joining the horde of people who will recommend this book. Like, it's a great read and definitely one that should be on everyone's to be read list. The next one that I read is Hamnet by Maggie, and you've probably seen this book around. It's been everywhere, and I really love this story. It follows, it's based upon Shakespeare's family, who kind of stay behind in Stratford when he goes off to London to be a playwright. And it's such a like a look into the intricate ways of like family relations, and Maggie really has a knack for that. Like, it is so beautifully written and showcases so many different relations. You know, from like people who like tolerate each other, but when something terrible happens, they're so unequivocally there for the other person, to, you know, the person you can't stand and you just don't want to be in the same room with, to eventually also relationships where, you know, you just have to look at each other and know exactly what the other person is thinking. And it's so, like, I think that's also the thing that really makes this book so special. Also, it is based on Shakespeare. But it's never mentioned in the book itself as a name. Like, through like small nudges and hints, you do realize it's him. So yeah, but he never mentioned, because it's really about his family and he comes by only a few times into the story. So yeah, don't be alarmed if you just don't know anything about Shakespeare or about his plays or whatever. It's not relevant to this story. Like, I had no idea he even had a family, and I'm not that familiar with his work, and I still really enjoyed this book and didn't feel like I was missing certain points or certain hints in the story. So yeah, I really recommend this book. It's really beautiful. I finished it about a week ago, but it was really well done, and I think when you want to read a book that has a really great way of describing different family relations and how different people deal with loss and love in their life, this is definitely the one to read. Another book that I read this month is The Alchemist by Coelho. I came across it in a library when I was actually picking up The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and when I noticed how short the novel was, I was like, I'll take it with me. I'm curious to see what it is, because I've heard so much about this book and I just never read it. And I have to admit, I'm kind of neutral on it. Like, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. And I think maybe I expected a lot more from it, because there are definitely people who love this book and it's been such a great inspiration to them. I suggest you just read it as a short novel. I think some people see it as some sort of self-help book, and I think for that it kind of missed the point of how, you know, layered and intricate life sometimes can be. Like, not intricate, but more just, you know, how faceted it is and like how many different things you have going on. The story itself follows Santiago and his journey from being a shepherd to the pyramids of Egypt to find this treasure that he's dreamed about twice in a row. And I think, so yeah, I think in that sense, like I can definitely see how for some people it's very inspiring, but I think for most it just doesn't really do it. Yeah, like, and I think that's why I'm kind of neutral. Like, I can see why people love it. It just didn't do it for me. I think just seeing it as a short novel, shorter story, it works. And I think for that, I enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed it in the sense that it was just a short, simple book. But I wouldn't see it as very world-changing views. Also, I think because it's important to understand, like, Santiago is a boy who can just doesn't have to take care of anyone, and he's able to take care of himself, and he sells his sheep, just goes to another country, works there to figure out his dream and his legend. So he has to live his legend. That's kind of like the whole shtick of the book, and just goes there and kind of gets work immediately. And I think it also showcases like how often people just like, you give this idea like you have to do stuff like that just to be able to find your legend. A little bit like it kind of focuses on that. Other like characters here and there in the book that, you know, live their legend just at the place they're born, where they're supposed to be. But yeah, I think for a lot of people it's just not like really a possibility. So in that sense, it kind of missed the fact that life doesn't really work that easily as it did for the main character. So for that, I think if you kind of look beyond the fact like it's not this world-changing book, then it's like a really nice book. I don't necessarily think I would recommend it, but I have to admit it did make me interested. Like, there's a side of this book where I feel like there's a potential that I would really love Coelho's other books, so I'm definitely gonna read another one. So if you know a good one, just leave it down below, because I'm actually really curious. I don't really know which other one I would want to read. So yeah, I'm curious. Like, I could feel like I could love some of his books. This one just isn't it. The last book that I am currently still reading is Circe by Madeline Miller. And initially when I bought this book in, I think, the beginning of this year and last year, I initially wanted to buy The Song of Achilles, which has been everywhere, and I was very curious because people loved it so much. But when I started buying it, they also like give you a recommendation of like what other books they've read or what other books people bought, and I saw that she also wrote a story about Circe. And I'm someone who, as a kid, loved Greek mythology. I just immediately was like, Achilles who? I just want a story about Circe. Let me get that one. And when I got this book, which was a different cover than I think I initially thought it would be, I was just like, this is the best thing ever. Like, it's a beautiful cover. Like, I just need to say it. It's definitely one of those books that you just want in your bookcase. The story itself, I think I'm almost like around halfway. So I'll get back to you guys when I finished reading it, because I think by the time that I will finish editing this and uploading this, I will finish the book. So I'll see you in a bit. Hi, I'm back, and I've just finished reading Circe by Madeline Miller, and I really enjoyed it. And I said it about a lot of books, but it was such a lovely story. And I mean, I was familiar with Circe's mythology, or slightly familiar with her mythology, before I read the book. I do have to say it's not necessary to know anything about Greek mythology. She explains it really well. I think through this book I also I understood a lot more about the difference between Olympians and Titans and where that all came from, because that always kind of remained a slight mystery to me, because it is a very vast mythology. Yeah, reading this, and I think it's very clear. I mean, normal Greek mythology is very much, you know, told from the male's perspective, to kind of say it like, it's like, oh, either as a woman you're very meek or you're the worst and horrible and killing everyone in sight. So I think I found this very nice as a story because she paints Circe as like just a person, like a human being, even though she's like a goddess. She paints her off as like someone very multifaceted, and I think that's something that we sometimes kind of miss in Greek mythology. So it was a really nice story. You kind of follow Circe through her life and all the challenges she has to go through as like an outcast, as, you know, of her family, of the gods themselves, and the choices that she makes, and it just makes everything, it was so interesting. And since it's been a while since I delved into Greek mythology, I still understood everything, so this is definitely a must read. I do feel like it spoils the Song of Achilles a little bit. I think I didn't read it, but because some people say it's like very heart-wrenching, and like, you know, it really was like people were bawling their eyes out, and I think this book mentioned the reason why. I'm a little bit familiar with the Song of Achilles, with Achilles himself, not the book. I haven't read the book. I'm gonna read it. But knowing me, I would have started the book and then be like, I just want to read the mythology of Achilles and know the differences between the book and the actual mythical story, and then I probably would have read everything that would happen. So on one part I was kind of reading it and I was like, oh, so that's gonna happen. Well, I mean, I could have pretended, would have heard a lot, like really spoiled everything, but knowing me, I would have probably looked up the mythology at the beginning of the book anyway, so I don't think it ruined that much. But if you are not familiar with it and you haven't read the Song of Achilles either, read that one first and then go to Circe. Either way, I'm definitely gonna read the Song of Achilles, and I also very recommend this book. Like, even I think if you're not necessarily into Greek mythology, it's just still a really good, sound story. And it explains a lot about the time people were living in, and the different powers of the world, sort of speak. And yeah, just, you know, how people deal with either eternity in front of them or the mortality of the human species, kind of speak. So I mean, it sounds very heavy, but it's handled very well, like shows a very stark difference. So yeah, I think this is definitely my top pick of the month. Despite also reading, you know, a few other really good books, I am gonna go for this one. So yeah, that's it. That's all the books that I read this month. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you have any suggestions or anything at all, just leave a comment down below. I'd love to read what you guys think. And yeah, I'll see you guys again next week. Bye!